It was huge. It was 100 feet long, 44 feet wide. It varied from 3 foot in depth to 12 feet.
I appreciate you joining me today on The Place for History. This is Ashley Weaver with the State Historical Society of Missouri, and we're going to talk about Stony Dell. So, some people may not have ever heard of Stony Dell. It's in the Rolla area near Rolla. Tell me about it.
Stonydale was commonly referred to as the Stonydale swimming pool, but it was so much more than that. It was a pretty extensive resort complex that included a trading post and filling station, a restaurant, the swimming pool itself, a 54-room bathhouse, a picnic area, a park, a rock garden, and for a very short period of time, a zoo.
Okay. It was like a lot of Route 66 places. It had a little bit of everything for everybody, it sounds like.
That's true, yes. And I think that that was part of the Pruitt's sort of commercialized endeavor was to create a one-stop place for everyone in the family to have a great time.
So let's talk about the Pruitts and kind of Vernon, or I've seen CV too, is one and the same, correct?
Yes, sir. So his official name was Clarence Vernon Pruitt, but almost everyone called him Vern. And he was the youngest son of Mr. George Pruitt, who was a pretty well-known farmer and businessman here in Phelps County. He was a first generation transplant here to Missouri. And he grew up in Arlington and then raised his family and his kids there. And Vern was his youngest son. And so Vern sort of set out on his own when he was very young in his early teens and went out west and some traveling and worked out there. But by 1928, he had returned to the Arlington area right around the same time that his father was hoping to expand the footprint of the business he had already created on what was now Route 66.
Mm.
So see, the first establishment built there on the Pruitt land was the Iowa Trading Post, and it was built around 1925 when it was still Highway 14.
Let's go into his background a little bit. How does he know how to build these places that he builds? There's a lot of this stonework, and you just don't pick that kind of knowledge up overnight.
Well, so there's not a lot of information about Vern Pruitt's history before he started working in Arlington as a stonemason. There is some supposition that he worked in construction when he was out west as a teen and that he picked up some skill there. But in the early 1930s, there was sort of a push for stone construction and local construction and using what was close at hand to build the things that you need, similarly to like log cabin construction in the
Mm.
pioneer days.
Yeah.
And so it's very likely that he had some natural affinity for stonework, but also that coupled with his construction background sort of is why he built of stone. That and it was just readily available. You could pick up fieldstone just about everywhere in Missouri, and there was a lot of it. So,
Facility opens in 1932.
mhm.
Does it open with all the things we've talked about, or what is there when they have opening day? And is this an event in the county?
So yes, almost all of what you see in the famous photographs of Stonydale was there when it opened in 1932. The bathhouse, the 54-room bathhouse, was the last thing to be completed, and I think that it was not finished until the end of the summer season in 1932. But yes, it opened to huge fanfare. Over 1,000 people came the first day. It made all of the local newspapers. It was many of the photographs you see where all you see your heads and faces, I think, are from that very day. Although, from what I can understand in the newspaper, each opening season, every summer, the opening day was quite a draw for people from miles and miles around.
People were excited to get back in the pool. I Now tell me about this pool.
Well, so it was actually, interestingly enough, the third pool that opened in Phelps County. So there were two other ones, Coolbrook in 1922 and one at a hotel in Nauvoo, which is now Rosati, in 1931. And technically, it was open in 1931 for local use. The pool at Stonydale was, but their grand opening wasn't until 1932. It was huge. It was 100 feet long, 44 feet wide. It varied from 3 foot in depth to 12 feet, and about 1,800 gallons of water, spring fed water, went through the pool each day. So,
Spring-fed water.
yes, sir.
So is this a place that was comfortable to get into? Was the water pretty cold like most spring water?
So they say each year when the season opened, for the first month or so, it was absolutely frigid. But after that, it was so hot and humid in the Ozarks that it was very refreshing for visitors.
Okay, so people about June, July, August thought it felt pretty good.
Yeah, and they didn't usually open until May. So we're pretty good about timing it due
Yeah,
to the weather.
yeah. It sounds like he had some sort of vision. Is there any record on what kind of vision he may or may not have had for this? Or was it just kind of I'm just going to build something?
I think it was a combination of the enthusiasm for Route 66 and everyone wanting to be a sort of a one-stop shop. Um, and also the amount of fieldstone and slabstone that Vern had readily available there on his father's property. Because even once the resort complex had been finished or was completed, by about 1935, he had created a park and a picnic area out behind the bathhouse that had a huge rock garden in the center of it. So he definitely had no shortage of rocks to use. Um, and I think that it was a paying venture. And so he was like, might as well use them.
This is a kind of a big deal in the county there, Phelps County. In the 30s, 40s, 50s, into the 60s. What does he do? It's hard to keep something exciting and new feeling for that amount of time. What does he do to attract people to the facility besides opening day, the excitement of opening day every year?
Well, one thing that Vern Pruitt was very good at was advertising a local paper, and his advertisements were spectacular. So if anybody gets a chance to look some of them up in the newspaper, I promise they are absolutely worth it. But so there at Stonydale, the pool wasn't really the only draw, which I think is what made it last so much longer and also so much more popular than, say, Coolbrook or the pool at Knobview that were also open. So
Okay.
they had oh they had exhibitions, different kinds of swimming exhibitions. There was a man called the Human Seal who came who
The
swam upside
what?
down.
He swam upside down. Okay.
Yes, and they also there were formation swimmers who would come, sort of how they do the synchronized swimming in the Olympics, and they would put
Okay.
on shows. Um, there were also free swimming lessons, beauty contests. They had live music, um, comedic entertainment in the evenings. There was food and drinks, swimming. There was zoo. And then also after Prohibition ended in 1933, you could get beer there at the restaurant and have a full dinner. So it
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
just daytime swimming. There was also quite a lot of nightlife, and there was a light, so you could actually swim after dark as well. So it was open from dawn till long past dusk most days.
So that's right. Opening day happened before Prohibition ended.
Yes, that's true.
So they were serving soft drinks, I would imagine,
Yeah, root beer and
until
orange crush, I think.
Orange Crush.
Yes,
That was
one
kind
of
of
the
a
signs.
signature.
Yes, that and Dr. Pepper.
Gotcha, gotcha. So originally that's what it was known for until Prohibition ended. And then they had a wider variety of drinks available.
Yes, and like most things, it started a bit more humbly, shall we say, with sodas and sandwiches, and then it, of course, evolved into steak dinners, the best catfish you've ever had in this holler.
Ah, okay.
And
Okay.
yeah, beer on draft. So
So this zoo you mentioned a couple times, it only lasts a short while. Is it kind of like a lot of the roadside zoos that you hear about along Route 66 in the heyday?
it is, yes, it was a pretty small animal menagerie and sort of an afterthought, I think. It was near the deep end of the pool, sort of out in the parking lot near the Pruitt residence, and it wasn't well contained. And I don't know that the animals had all of the support that they needed. There's really very little mention of this zoo in the newspaper. There was at one time a baboon, an African lion, and then a smattering of local animals, raccoons, possums, and things. But it's unknown what happened to the more exotic animals, and it must have not been lucrative because it was never mentioned again in any of their advertising or promotional materials or even at the newspaper.
So it was a very short time, so maybe just a few months or one summer.
Yes.
Hmm. Hmm. Uh, Like a lot of Route 66 businesses, there's the building, there's the personality behind the building, and then we come to the part where we have to talk about the demise. So is he the one and only owner along with his father, or what happens to the property?
So, really, things started to go into decline about 1941 when Vernon left. He joined the war effort and worked in different places all across the United States. And his father, of course, by then was elderly and couldn't keep up with it. So by the time Vern came back from the war, he then had a family and he decided to go into proper stonework full time. He actually built a lot of the giraffe stone buildings here in Rolla during this period. Um, and so around 1950, Stonydale was sold to Fred Widener, and him and his wife and family ran it until the mid 1960s when the interstate came through. And eventually, the Federal Highway Department, I believe it was, bought the property south of Route 66 there, which is where the swimming pool and bathhouse were, and the restaurant and the park. And they demolished that to make way for Interstate 44.
So Stony Dell is really just a memory now, or can you see some of it if you get off the highway, I-44, that is?
Well, there are a few things you can still see. One of them is the cap to the spring that once filled the swimming pool.
Oh,
It's very clearly labeled Stony Dale, and a lot of visitors and Route 66 enthusiasts stop by there and take selfies with it and post it on social media. But the north side of what was on Route 66, which is now Highway D, a lot of that is still there. Now it is very much in disrepair at this point. You could sort of see some remnants of it in the 90s, but 30 years later, there's not much left. But there are rumors that the new owners of the property hope to revitalize the area and either restore or rebuild at least the cabin portion of Stonydale. So that was very exciting to hear.
oh, well, we'll have to keep tabs on that because that would be quite the event for Route 66.
It really would.
And this would be the year to make an announcement if they're out there listening to this.
It's true. We can only hope. So
Yeah. So have you been out there? Have you looked at what's left out there or looked at the pictures?
I have been by. It is private property,
Ah.
so you can only kind of drive by and, look out the window and wish that you could go up there. Um, I did some mapping of the area because I had not found the highway map yet, and I was convinced that I knew where everything was. I was quite wrong. Once I found the highway map, I was like, oh no. But so yes, I have been out there.
So if you're driving down 44 near Rolla in that area, do you actually drive over what would have been the pool at one point or one of the buildings? Do you actually drive across the property?
It is more like where the back part of the park area was, which I
Ah,
would be happy to send you photographs of the maps and things. Because they used the swimming pool and bathhouse as a and that parking lot there sort of as a staging area when they were building the interstate, and they didn't actually demolish that part until it was complete. And I think mostly because they just people wandering through there on their property that they were responsible for. So, but the park extended quite far behind the pool and bathhouse. There were stone benches and teeter-totters and swings and a rock garden, all well lit, so you could use it at night. And I'm pretty sure that that's the part that the interstate goes over now.
and the people who have actual memories of being in the pool or visiting, we probably don't have very many of those folks around anymore.
No, and funnily enough, you wouldn't think that it would be that far away, but a lot of the people who are of the age to have frequented it ended up at Coolbrook or at Knobview. Because
Uh,
by the 1940s and the 1950s, they became sort of localized establishments. So it was really the people of Arlington that were frequenting Arlington and Jerome, Stonydale in the 50s and the 60s as a community gathering space.
okay. Ashley Weaver with the State Historical Society of Missouri, I greatly appreciate you joining us today on The Place for History.
Thank you very much.